Hi, loving greetings to you and welcome. If you're visiting for the first time, a special welcome to you and a little bit about who we are. The Marriage Foundation is not like other channels where you go to get answers to things and you get these classic Western psychological answers. And that's because when I began working with couples, I came from a completely different point of view. I used to be a divorce mediator around the turn of the century, early 2000, and I had a couple come and ask me to help save their marriage. As a communications expert, they felt that I could be of some use. They didn't want a divorce, and I thought, okay, I'll try. And I spoke to my friends who were psychologists, the ones who sent me my business, and I didn't like what they were telling me. I didn't think that it really could help this couple. Not that they had extreme problems. In fact, what I've come to realize is that most people who are getting a divorce shouldn't be getting one at all. Things get out of hand because they don't understand marriage. And so I made it a point to really understand marriage. And it's far different from how traditional marriage experts see marriage. Completely different. Most people see it as a psychological thing. That's why they go to psychologists. But I've come to realize it's not. It's a very, very small component. So I asked the question to begin with, why do people get married in the first place? And it took me a while to get there. I'm going to give you the short version. But you get married to be happy, don't you? Isn't that why you fell in love with your soulmate, not with just somebody? And so the potential of happiness till the end of your days, hand in hand with your soulmate, it's so inviting. And we want that happiness. And we also want love. We crave love because soulmate, we're souls. And so marriage, you see, is a very spiritual thing. It's not religious. In fact, I think that marriage is one of the best religions there is because it's all about finding love, finding happiness. And it works when you know how to do it. So the questions that brought you here today is what a wife should not do to her husband. 7 things is what I came up with. 7 things what a wife should not do to her husband. And interestingly, a lot of it is about communication. A lot of it is about what I call marital morality, how to live in a harmony that is growing. You know, the world is all about fixing problems. But if you put the emphasis on growing your marriage, on expanding the love, expanding the harmony, expanding the happiness, then those problems are so tiny when they come up. So these are going to really help you. These will really help you. And now's a good time for you to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you're learning about marriage. It's free. If you go to our website, you'll see we have a lot of offerings. We have articles, we have this, we have these videos. We also have affordable books and courses. There's a special course for women that is incredibly helpful. And so what a wife should not do to her husband, 7 things. Number 1, and I chose this as number 1 because it's so common. And women don't realize the damage that they're doing to their marriage. So number 1 is you should never speak unkindly to anyone about your husband. Never. You should never speak unkindly to your husband at your husband either. Because if you want to create harmony, if you want to create happiness, Why would you speak unkindly towards them? And your mind is going, well, there's times when you need to. And you know what I discovered? I discovered that the mind is, which is not you. You have a mind. You're actually the soul. You know, we were mistaught. We were taught, oh, you have a soul. Or, do you have a soul? What do you think? Well, here's the news. The news is you are the soul. You have a mind. You have a body. But we are essentially very spiritual because we are the soul. And the mind is a machine for us. It's a computer. It's a translator. It does a lot of useful things. But it also gets in the way because we don't recognize it for what it is. And so we take the mind's view on things and we run with it without question. And that's kind of not a good idea. So the mind says, oh no, you definitely should speak unkindly to your husband when necessarily about him. And there's nothing wrong with speaking unkindly about your husband because you want to get your friend's point of view and all of that. But if you really think about it, the reason you got married was for happiness and love, and doing that undermines happiness, undermines harmony, undermines love. And so that's why you should never do it. And it's not a, well, sometimes it's okay. No, it's not okay. And it's not okay if you're seeing a therapist. It's not okay if you're talking to your friend. It's not okay if you're talking to your sister or your mom. It's not okay because it won't help your marriage. It takes it the other way. If someone speaks unkindly about you to you, you're going to become defensive, resentful, and so will your husband. And when you're speaking unkindly about your husband to other people, you're being disloyal because your husband is your number one priority in your life if you're doing your marriage correctly. So you have to be loyal to him. Loyalty is the highest law of marriage. Yes, it is. So keep that in mind because the temptation is so strong that you have to overcome that. He has the same problem, but not as much. Men are less open about their relationships with other people. They're less likely to say something negative towards you, about you. So it's especially important for you to really get this and watch yourself and see how unnecessary it is anyway. At best, it's kind of entertainment. At worst, it's just pure disloyalty. Okay, number 2, don't set him up by holding back information. This is one of those I meant wells that end up putting him in a pickle. And it happens a lot because women, frankly, are afraid to be the bearer of bad news with their husbands. Not all, but oftentimes. And then your husband is going to get caught off guard. Oh my God, I didn't know we were late paying the water bill. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me there was a noise coming from the car? Why didn't you tell me the kids are having a hard time in school? There's so many of these. And it puts your husband in a position of getting mad at you for not telling him what he should know, your partners. You know, marriage is about coming together on a very high level of love and happiness, but you still have the mundane things that have to be dealt with. And this is actually something that happens quite a bit. You know, I'd work with couples, I'd work with individuals. This came up a lot. And I'm not going to go into the psychology of it because it doesn't really make any difference. But it's important to watch yourself and make sure you don't do that. Number 3, and this is so common, It's so accepted in our society. Don't mock or ridicule your husband. Never do that. It's accepted because the people who taught us about marriage are the ones who do this all the time. Who teaches us about marriage in our society? And it's insane, but it's true. Are the sitcoms, the movies, the shows on TV, the pop psychologists on TV, and they have no problem with sarcasm. They think it's all in good fun. But you know, the teaser may get a laugh, and the people who want to be in may laugh, but the teasee, the one who is mocked, who's ridiculed, they don't think it's that cool. You know, I say the same thing to men. You don't want to do that. It's disloyal. I mean, you could cover it that way, but worse. It's hurtful. It only hurts. And especially don't do it behind his back. Especially. Number 4. And this is going to be very broad, but it's something you want to keep in mind. Keep it in the front of your mind. Don't expect of him. Don't expect him to provide more. Don't expect him to take better care of the kids or to behave with the kids the way you do. Don't expect him to show up. And you're going to go, what? And I'm going to go, yeah. Because if you do, you're going to be setting yourself and him up, because people don't change. They are who they are. And instead of having those expectations, take a look at yourself and go, why should I not be okay with this particular flaw? You know, no husband fails at everything. So he probably isn't doing as well as you would like in this particular. By the way, I say the same thing to men. You know, my wife, my wife this, my wife that. And I go, don't expect anything of her. You didn't marry her so that she would blah, blah, blah. You married her because you love her. And you love your husband. And so you knew they were going to be lacking in certain areas because we're human beings, and that's how we do it. But if you throw in this expectation, you're going to undermine your own appreciation of him, which is very important to appreciate your husband. And it has the eclipse effect. So if you have this expectation of your husband, which means he's not fulfilling a particular standard that you expect, it's like putting your hand up and blocking the sun. Your tiny little hand blocks the entire sun. The sun is humongous, and your hand can block it. When you put your hand of expectations between your vision of your husband and your love for him, you're going to be disappointed. And you're going to block out who he is to you. And you don't want to do that. You want to appreciate him, love him, find excuses to love him even more. We live in a world that condemns so easily, criticizes so easily, complains about everything. That's the world. But when you get married, you're forming a new world just for you and your soulmate, which should be filled with love and happiness. A container, and your marriage is a container, only has in it that which you put in it. If you put in love and happiness and you keep out complaints and criticism, it'll be more and more harmonious every day, every day. And that's what you want. This is what I teach. And we have this in our books, we have it in the courses. It's very important. And we've been doing this for 22 years plus. So not only is it important, but it has been proven that it is important. Okay, so Number 5, I put in something for number 5 that I think is something that is rampant in this world, and it should not be ever happening in your marriage. And that's contradicting him. It's so easy to contradict anyone because there's a billion points of view on everything. It doesn't solve anything to be contradictory. Now, he may say something that you don't agree with, and you want to get your point across. Before you get your point across, you think about his point of view. And you think, until you get to the point of where you go, I understand why you're saying that. I can get it. It is so important for you as an individual to understand. You won't understand if all you do is contradict. If your first reactions go, no, I don't agree with that, you are stuck in the mud of your own thoughts. And you're not perfect. You're not the only one who has your perspective on something, but other people's perspectives are so important. This is a big deal these days because the political landscape has gotten insane. And people go, well, if you don't agree with me, you're an idiot. But it's not true. One should try their best and not be satisfied until they understand the other point of view. There's no need to contradict. It really doesn't benefit anybody. But reaching understanding heart, loving heart, means an understanding heart. Do you love your husband? Sure. Well, then make it a point to understand him. You still may not agree with him. You probably won't. Doesn't matter. At least then you have something to discuss. Not argue. Let lawyers argue with each other. Let politicians argue with each other. You're married. You discuss things with your husband. You say, I understand where you're coming from. How about this, though? How about if we add this into the mix? So there's no conflict. You're there to merge. You merge your hearts, merge your souls, merge your love and appreciation of one another. None of this ever again. Get rid of that. No contradicting. Number 6. There's a theme to this. I just realized it as I read what I put for number 6. There's a theme. Number 6 is never say or think something that will reduce him at all. You see, I put in never think either because most people say, okay, I'll be careful, I won't say anything. Don't even think it. And you'll go, I can't stop that. Well, yes, you can. And this is one of the greatest problems in our world today, is that we are not taught that our mind is a possession and that we are obligated to control it. We have free will. The mind doesn't have free will. You have free will. The mind is merely a tool, but it's habit-bound and instinct-bound, and it's our responsibility to control our mind, which means that not only can we stop it from thinking something, but we can choose to infuse other things in there that are beneficial to us. So you may have the thought, oh, he's always pushing me to move faster and I'm not done. Don't even allow that thought to come up in your mind. When it comes up, go, I really love him. He's got such beautiful attributes. He's so strong. He's so protective. He would never let me down. And you start working on controlling your mind. You master your mind. You choose to be happy. And nothing and no one can make you unhappy because you're utilizing your free will. So utilize it for this too. In no way do you ever reduce him, make him less than your hero, less than your true love, less than your soulmate, because he is all of those things. Number 7. I saved this for last because it's kind of a pop topic, but it is important. Number 7, never reject, and boy, are you going to give me hell when you hear me say this, but stay tuned because the explanation is valuable. Never reject his affectionate advancements. Oh, did he really just say that? He's just all about protecting men. No, because I'm so strong with men too, because there's so many misconceptions that there's so much truth that has to be brought out, or you're not going to know. So there's this idea right now of I have my right, it's my body, it's my space, and I agree. But you married your husband to open your heart to him alone. And you want him to always feel that you are there for him. It doesn't mean you have to jump in the sack every time he touches your hand, but you can be gracious and kind and loving. You don't have to reject. You don't have to put up a wall. You don't have to stop him. You can move it over a little. I know this is true because I get moved over a little a lot. My wife isn't always ready when I'm ready. It's okay. But there's a way to handle this that is so considerate. Let me use that term, considerate. And your job as a spouse, because this is true for both, is to learn to open up your heart more and more. And one of the greatest ways of communicating our love is sexually. And unfortunately, the world is so crazy with sex. It is. Because we don't know the purpose of sex when we're married. For me, there is no purpose of sex when you're not married. Now, if you're living together, you're married in this particular context. The purpose of sex is not to be entertained. It isn't meant to be recreational. Sex is a way where the couple is able to come close physically to open the spiritual doors of their heart. And so you don't want to be slamming that door shut when it's starting to open a little. And you must realize that your husband is sensitive. All men are super sensitive, much more so than women know. And when you reject your husband, has a powerful negative impact on him. And he may bury it. Okay, there's a little psychology there. He may bury it, but you don't want him to do that. You want him to express his affection towards you. You may want to train him in how to do it the way you want it without coming out and saying, oh, I'm going to train you or you should do this. You can be subtle. You're his queen. You have this craving for love yourself. Use the sex. Use his sexual desire because it's probably stronger than yours. I hear that all the time. True or not, the craving should be shifted to making love. Making love. Because that's why you're there in your marriage. So those are the 7 what a wife should not do to her husband. And I hope that it makes sense to you. I hope that you have learned something. I hope you visit again. I hope you like this video. I hope you leave a positive comment. And I hope that your marriage is filled with love and happiness, because that's how it's intended. I believe that marriage is a gift from God, one of the greatest, for us insignificant mortals who have a hard time experiencing love, happiness. And he gave us marriage because that's what marriage is all about. So God bless you. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.